Welcome once again to Against the Spread, where we, us here at Sportsnet, for you, here on YouTube, endeavor to pick games against the spread, and we do a decent job of that.
Yeah,
we do a really good job.
You had a great week last week.
Yeah, I mean, it's
11-5.
Broken clock is right twice a day.
Yeah, all right.
But we're always right.
Enough credit.
We're always right on our Survivor picks. So,
we are. So far,
make
so good.
sure you stay until the end of this video, because that's where we're going to give away those.
And we'll give you the picks too that we feel the most confident in going into the upcoming week as well.
Yes.
So stay tuned for that.
And apparently you've shown some confidence in us as our views have gone up and up and up. So thank you for that. And we'll try and keep it going on a positive note. Let's start on the Thursday nighter, which is tough to predict at the best of times.
Yeah.
And this one is tough as well. Philadelphia goes to Green Bay on the short week. They are underdogs by 4.5 points. 70% of the public loves Aaron Rodgers in the pack.
Yeah.
You are an Eagles fan.
I am, yeah. And I just came from an Eagles game this weekend.
That's right.
Yeah.
So you saw firsthand.
I saw the problems here, yeah.
How do you feel about those problems on Thursday?
I'm not as concerned. I mean, there's a lot of talk about 7 drops. That's a big problem, but I think that has a lot to do with the fact that they're leaning on guys that they don't usually lean on, with Deshaun Jackson and Alshon Jeffrey being out. So I feel like those are problems that can be fixed. The turnovers were tough, but that's not something I expect every week. The biggest concern with the Eagles is the big plays they give up on defense. That's where they got burned. Marvin Jones just couldn't be stopped against them, and that's a bad sign. And it has as much to do with the defensive line not getting pressure as it does with the secondary not playing well. And against Aaron Rodgers, if you don't get pressure, your secondary doesn't play well, you're going to get burned. And so I'm going to go with the Packers. I just don't think the Eagles are there yet.
I, too, am going to go with the Packers. The Eagles have injuries both in their receiving core. Mm-hmm. Wentz was banged up a little bit in the Atlanta game, and he
looks all right.
He's still playing, but he looks all right.
He looks good.
But now starting to get a bit nicked up on defense as well, and they've done such a good job early in the year in terms of stopping the run defensively with that defensive line. Yeah. I just think when we're looking at this game, the defense that I've been surprised by has been the Packers.
Yeah, they look great. The 2 Smiths.
Yes.
5 sacks this weekend.
Yep, and then they spent 2 first-round picks addressing that defense. They addressed it in the offseason. Yeah. Patton has done a good job as the coordinator. And LaFleur coming in as an offensive mind, you think, oh, my goodness, Aaron Rodgers is going to be throwing the football all over the place. The offense hasn't really been there, but the defense certainly has. So 4.5 at home, short week with a team that has injury issues. Yeah. And so it's going to be until Thursday where we'll know who is in or out of the lineup for the Eagles.
Yeah, I think one of those receivers, Alshon, probably will be back for sure.
Yeah.
Deshaun maybe another week, but still, you gotta like the Packers' chances.
Certainly. Yeah. So I like you are going with the Pack. That must hurt you to go against.
It does, but I'm realistic. I know where we're at. I feel better about the prospects going forward, like after this game, than I do about this game. It's just a rough time for them right now.
Are Browns fans realistic? Because people thought
so.
They were going to be a Super Bowl contender. After 3 weeks, it doesn't look that way. They're 7-point underdogs going to Baltimore on Sunday. Who do you like in that divisional matchup?
I think that Cleveland definitely has their issues offensively, especially with the play calling and the offensive line, making it really tough for Baker Mayfield to do what he wants to do. But the defense is good. I think the defense is the real deal. They showed that Sunday night when they were able to do some damage against the Rams. And I think with this being a divisional game, it's going to be tough for either team to put up a big lead. So I'm going to take the Browns to keep it within a touchdown here.
I'm actually going to go with the Ravens. They've run the ball so well, even though it hasn't been as run-heavy as we thought. Ingram looks like one of the best free agent acquisitions early in the year. And I just don't really trust Cleveland. They're the most penalized team in the league. Their offensive play calling is questionable at best. Yeah. Draw play on 4th and 9.
Definitely. That was a bizarre play.
And my worry with Cleveland is if Baltimore gets up early, I'm not sure. They certainly have the firepower, but they've been so predictable in their play calling that in past situations, Baker's been running for his life. And that's why I think the Ravens have the running game and the defense to really control this game. And would I feel better if this was 6.5? Sure. But I'm still confident at 7 that the Ravens can win.
With me, like Lamar Jackson is a big question here. Will he get back into a rhythm throwing the football? Because if they play the way that you're suggesting and they try and run the ball down the Browns' throats and that doesn't work, he's going to have to throw the ball. Can he do it accurately? He didn't do it as well against Kansas City. So can he bounce back is a big question going into this game for me.
Carolina at Houston.
The Kyle Allen show.
Apparently, yeah.
Wow.
-5 is the line. I'm actually going to, and I really like Houston. And I think, we don't talk enough about how good Watson is because we talk every week about how good Mahomes is.
Yeah.
But I think that this line is doing a disservice to the Panthers.
Do you?
I think they're a better, certainly passing team with Allen. And so at +5, I like Carolina to really? Cover here. What about you?
Really, I don't. I like the Cardinals are not the Texans, and so the Panthers, had an.
But are the Texans the Texans?
What do you mean?
I know we expect them to be good, and their depth chart looks good, but they kind of let the Chargers hang around for a bit.
Yeah,
like they really haven't put together a convincing full 4 quarters of football yet.
Sure, but we're talking about 2 different level of football team here. Like I think the Panthers and the Cardinals are on a lower level than the Texans and even a banged up Chargers team. Like those are contenders and then teams that we now look as being on the outside looking in. The Texans, Kyle Allen's not going to have an easy week this week with Merciless and J.J. Watt and a good Texans defense. And then Deshaun Watson, he got it done this week, and I think, he'll be an MVP candidate going forward this season if he stays healthy. And I just don't think that the Panthers have the same firepower as the Texans do. And I think this will be maybe not a reality check for the Panthers. I think they know who they are, but a reality check for us as in terms of where the Panthers with Kyle Allen stand.
Will this be a reality check for the Miami Dolphins as the line is still big?
Do they need any more? I mean, reality has been tough for them.
Yeah, well, that was the question. Would the Cowboys again cover another huge line against Miami after New England did it?
Yeah.
And they did. They are hosting the Chargers, who we just spoke about. 16 is the number. And the public actually likes the Dolphins. 57% is with them as of right now. Or you?
So they're 0-3 against the spread, and all 3 of them have been massive. They're losing by 39 points a game at this point, which is crazy. But I think this is the week where they get a win against the spread.
Right.
Not a win. I'm not going to pick them to win. But the Chargers are banged up. They've had a rough go of it the last couple weeks. And the Dolphins hung around with the Cowboys on the road for a couple of quarters, and I think that's a sign of things getting a little bit better. And so 16 is a really big number for me against a Chargers team that isn't at full strength and hasn't been at full force yet this season. So I'm going to take the Dolphins for the first time this season.
Yeah, I'm going to take the Dolphins for the first time. It very well might be the last time, but despite the difference in the scores in the 3 games thus far, I think they looked different with Rosen at the helm.
He has to be the guy moving forward.
No question. And the game was close. I was really sweating out whether or not the Cowboys were going to cover. Then late, the game got away from them. But for the balance, Miami was very competitive. They found something in terms of no longer having Parker as their flanker receiver, and now kind of Preston has become that guy that they're looking for to take big shots down the field. They've done a bit better running the football. And so this is, to me, somewhat about Miami showing a little bit more fight than they did in week 1 and week 2. Yeah. But I'm not certain that I really trust the Chargers to both win and cover such a big number.
Sure.
They're good, but they're not that good.
Yeah, and they're going into Miami, which, like for the Chargers traveling across the country, that's going to be tough.
Yes. New England at Buffalo.
3-0 Buffalo, 3-0 Patriots. This is one of those games.
Buffalo really the only team in the division that's going to give New England a game this year.
Yeah.
-7 is the line. Can they give them a game more so than that?
I think they're going to give them a game this week. Buffalo is a tough place to play, and I know traditionally it hasn't been for New England. This is usually the game where we're all excited about the Bills and their early season start, and then the Patriots come in and blow them away. But this feels different. I don't know if you feel the same way, but this Buffalo team feels different. The defense, they have fully come together under McDermott. They're a top 5 unit. And I think for me, this game's going to come down to Josh Allen and how Josh Allen protects the football. He's made steps in his sophomore year, and he's, the best part about him is that he's quick to forget those mistakes. But against the Patriots, who have the best defense in the NFL right now, if you make those mistakes, you're going to pay. I expect Josh Allen to come in knowing that, given that he did it against Cincinnati, protect the football and keep it close against New England.
I agree. And people are talking about New England and their defense, and this might be, the best defense we've seen in New England for a while.
Yeah.
You could say all the same things about Buffalo's defense.
Sure.
Which is a top defense in the league. And when I look at New England, Tom looks terrific yet again. He doesn't age. But slowly that receiving core that we talked about to start the season as being one of the best he's ever had, it's looking kind of thin.
Yeah, Edelman's banged up.
Edelman's banged up. Antonio Brown is not walking through that door, thankfully.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Josh Gordon had a finger issue, and before that wasn't playing necessarily that well in the game. So all of a sudden we went from Philip Dorsett being a depth guy to Philip Dorsett being their number one option.
Guy, yeah.
So, if he's still available in fantasy leagues, feel free to pick him up.
Definitely do
but,
that.
But I don't see certainly this game getting away from Buffalo. I see it being a close game. Frank Gore showed that regardless of whether or not they're fully healthy in the backfield, they'll be okay in terms of running the ball.
Yep.
So, I like Buffalo to cover. And listen, New England's not going to run the table, right? Like, newsflash.
They're going to have some tough games. I think this is going to be one of them.
This is going to be one. And if we looked through the schedule in terms of a chance for them to lose within the division, to me, this would be the game.
Yeah.
This would be the game. At Buffalo when you're banged up early in the year. So I certainly like
well, and the offensive line, the Patriots' offensive line has a couple issues too. So
yes,
if the Bills can get after it and get at Tom Brady, that's the thing. Get to Tom Brady. Always easier said than done.
Yes.
But this is the time.
Get to Danny Dimes. Also easier said than done. He leads the comeback for Washington. He's going up against Washington. He leads the comeback against Tampa Bay, bringing them back from 18 points. And looked like the Giants were going to throw the game away, but they end up finishing it off. And most of it with Saquon Barkley in a walking boot.
Yeah.
So the game was literally on his shoulders to go take it, and he did. But now he's going to be playing a full game with Gallman as his running back, which is a totally different situation. Washington, however, looked terrible on Monday night.
It's bad, and there's not much hope there.
Assuming Case Keenum will continue to be their starter.
Yeah, it sounds like he will for now.
Do you like the Giants at a short number at -3?
Yeah, I do. And, being an Eagles fan, I have some disdain for the Giants, and that's not going to go anywhere. But I love nothing more than when Twitter does a 180 on a guy, like they did on Daniel Jones on Sunday. That was great. Everyone who chirped the pick, laughed at the pick even in the spring, is now praising this guy. And when it comes to this game, I do like the Giants. I think they're a better team than Washington is, given what we saw last night. And if there's just nothing that would give Washington hope here, especially if Case Keenum is playing again. And it says a lot about where Washington either thinks Dwayne Haskins is or where they think their own team is, because they don't want to, throw him into the fire. So I don't think it looks good for Washington. I think there's some excitement and a spark around Daniel Jones. And so at 2.5 points, I like the Giants at home.
I do as well. Until Washington makes a QB change and goes to Haskins. And I'm not certain it's going to even be better in the short term.
No, it probably won't be given the hesitancy they have.
Yeah, but I just think you know what you have in Keenum, and that's not much, right?
Yeah.
And there's
5
a reason.
turnovers.
Yeah, so I too am going to go with the Giants, and Shepard is back now. It's giving him another target on the outside,
and Ingram too. Like he has a connection with those guys.
Yes.
That's good. That's good for the Giants.
Yeah, I'm going to roll with New York at home.
Yeah.
Danny Dimes gets his first home win. KC going to Detroit. -6 is the number. For me, this is a bit low. I think it's showing respect to Detroit's defense, which has played pretty well.
Yeah.
And with Stafford and Galladay, there's certainly some playmakers there on offense. But -6, the Chiefs against most teams, I'm taking the Chiefs. Specifically on turf where they're even faster. I'd actually saying this is my gold pick. You can lock this one up. This is what I feel the strongest about.
Yeah, interesting.
And I actually feel strong about the over as well, which is 54. I think there's going to be a lot of points in this game.
Yeah.
How do you see this?
Well, yeah, and coming from, I just watched the Lions in person, and the defense gave up a lot of yards to the Eagles, an Eagles team without their top 2 receivers, like we were talking about, and a banged-up offensive line. So I wasn't all that impressed with what the Lions were doing on defense. And yes, they have some playmakers on offense, and Matt Stafford looks good, and Kerryon Johnson looks good, but I just don't see how they hang with this offense with Patrick Mahomes, and it seemingly doesn't matter who's playing for the Chiefs. Like Tyreek Hill's out, doesn't matter. They can suffer injuries along the offensive line. Eric Fisher was out, doesn't matter. And yeah, at less than a touchdown, sure. Sure, the Lions are unbeaten, but I don't think they're this kind of team. And I think we might really see where the Lions stand when they come up against the NFL's best.
Seattle in division goes to Arizona. Arizona, the home underdog by 5. Who do you like in this matchup of 2 quarterbacks who are probably going to be running for their lives for most of the football game?
Yeah, these games usually in years past are close. The Cardinals always seem to play the Seahawks close, but I don't know. After allowing Kyle Allen to throw 4 touchdowns on them, and that's not to say that I like what Seattle's been doing. They haven't been their best, but I just don't know how the Cardinals are going to be able to handle Russell Wilson here. And then Kyler Murray kind of took a step back as well on Sunday. So I think the Cardinals are going to struggle, and I'll take 5.
Yeah, Kyler Murray, the fact that he had over 30 completions, good. The fact that they were for under 200 yards, not good.
Not good.
But when I look at Seattle, they just lost to a team at home which had the similar output in terms of Teddy Bridgewater not necessarily pushing the ball down the field, but they were able to run it pretty well with Alvin Kamara and get him involved in the offense. When I look at Arizona and what they can do with David Johnson, I think the recipe is pretty much the same. You're giving me points, and they're at home. And the receivers in the game are probably, as a complement, better for Arizona at this point than they are for New Orleans, even though Michael Thomas is by far the best. Kirk and Fitzgerald have looked pretty good thus far. I think 5 is a lot of points with Seattle. Their defense, again, wasn't as good as I thought they would be against undermanned Saints team at home. And so I like Arizona to cover, but I don't really feel great about either of these teams.
That's a risky pick, yeah.
Yeah, but I do like the fact that I'm getting the points for a home team against 2 teams that have struggled somewhat to start the year.
Correct me if I'm wrong, though. The Cardinals were at home this week and gave up 4 touchdowns to Kyle Allen.
That's true.
That's the thing. That's the biggest thing for me is, whenever I think maybe the Cardinals here, then I picture Kyle Allen throwing 4 touchdowns.
That's true, but I just think of a guy like, DJ Moore for Carolina, or even the fact that Olsen is playing really well. Does Russell Wilson, and obviously McCaffrey, does Russell Wilson have those types of options?
Weapons? No, he doesn't.
Lockett's probably his best receiver, his best running back. It continues to put the ball on the turf. It's not a lot of playmakers around Russell Wilson. And really, when they've made plays, it was him doing it himself, keeping the ball at the goal line and running for scores. And I just don't know if that's a recipe for sustained success. Evidently, Minnesota thinks the recipe for sustained success is run the football more than anybody has in modern day football, because they're continuing to do it. That team actually last year was Seattle. And in fact, Minnesota has dropped back to pass on average 5 times less than the Seahawks did last year. Minnesota, however, is going to Chicago. -3 is the number. And I don't know if you can be one-dimensional against that Bears defense, which is scary. I like the Bears at home.
Yeah.
Do you?
I mean, this is my favorite game of the week because I think it's going to be old school, nasty football, good defense, and lots of running. And I think that's where the game gets decided, the run game. Who has the better run game? And I'm not convinced by the Bears. I don't think they have the run game to compete with the run game and Dalvin Cook that the Vikings present. So, I don't have trust in Cousins or Trubisky taking over this game against 2 really good defenses. The one thing I know for sure is that the Vikings are going to run the ball well, or they're going to keep on doing it. The Bears, can they do that? I don't know. I see this being a low-scoring game. Take the under, but I see the Vikings coming out on top in a big win for 2 teams trying to keep up with Green Bay.
Yeah, I think, the Bears have found something in the rookie in Singletary, and he only had 6 carries.
Montgomery, you mean?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
the rookie in Montgomery. Yeah. He only had 6 carries in week 1 since he's had 31. So he is now stepped up and been the lead back in that situation.
Yep.
And as sound as Minnesota's defense is, Chicago's defense is just scary in terms of they don't only stop you, they turn you over.
Yeah, they take it away.
And they turn it into points.
Yeah.
And I don't trust Trubisky, certainly, to stay on the field on offense, but I don't trust Cousins not to throw you a couple when he's on offense. So to me, it's more confidence in the Bears defense and them being at home. And that's really the difference for me in a number that's pretty small in -3. Where shall we go next? Why don't we take a look at the Sunday nighter, Dallas going to New Orleans. 2.5 is the line, and I guess that's respect for the fact that the Cowboys are 3-0, because I think aside from the quarterback position, I think the Saints are still the better football team, and they are at
Arguably,
home.
yeah. I think Cowboys defense is probably something I'd take over the Saints here because of those linebackers.
Yeah, those linebackers are great, but the secondary is still pretty young, and I trust the Saints secondary more. The D-line is supposed to be a strength, but they struggled to get pressure. Their first sacks of the year came against the Dolphins.
Yeah.
I'm more concerned because who have the Cowboys played thus far, right?
Right. This is the first.
They played the Giants.
Prove it game.
They played Washington. They played the Dolphins. Those might be the 3 worst teams. Certainly the Giants with Eli at the quarterback might be the 3 worst teams in football.
Right.
The Saints' schedule has been more difficult. So I'm torn. Talk to me. Where are you going in terms of 2.5 being the number for the Cowboys on the road?
Yeah, I think that the Saints definitely played well in Seattle, something I predicted here last week, humble brag. But they needed a huge performance from Alvin Kamara, and they scored in ways where the offense wasn't involved. They scored a punt return, and they had a fumble recovery for a touchdown. So they put up points in ways that you can't rely on putting up points every week. And now we've got some tape on the way that Teddy Bridgewater is going to play. He wasn't remarkable. He just didn't make the mistakes. So I think that Dallas is the better team. I mean, on offense, without Drew Brees, I think on offense, Dallas is undeniably better. The offensive line is really good. Tony Pollard and Zeke Elliott both ran for 100 yards against the Dolphins, I know, but that's still important, and Dak is playing the best football of his life. So I agree that this is definitely their toughest test, but I think that Dallas has the upper hand because of the quarterback advantage. And it'll be interesting to see how those linebackers play against Kamara and the ways in which Dallas tries to snuff out his threat. but I do, and it makes me a little sick to say this, have confidence in the Cowboys.
This is a tough
game.
This
is
tough,
crazy, man.
Tough taping for you.
How am I I'm talking.
You went against the Eagles, and you're talking up other teams in the NFC East.
Teams. At least Washington's still terrible, though, so that's good.
That is true. I listen, I do not trust Jason Garrett in a close football game against a good team, specifically on the road.
Okay.
However, this to me is all about something I saw on tape that I liked, something that I didn't see on tape and I expected to. Dallas having Pollard and Zeke in the game at the same time, going with some pistol, some wishbone. It's a nice little wrinkle that I'd love to see. A lot of Pollard's offense, let's be honest, was late in the game was over, running out the clock, starter out of the game. I get that. So I wouldn't be running out to grab him in fantasy just yet. But I do think it's another thing you have to prepare for in terms of that run game. On the flip side, I really thought New Orleans offense was going to be able to be okay until Breeze got back, because Bridgewater's been there for a while. He's been a starter before. And because Sean Payton is telling everyone who will listen that Taysom Hill is the next Steve Young, and this is the opportunity to unleash him, we didn't see it. We saw him being used the way he normally is.
Well, and probably less of him than we normally see.
Yeah, coming in, catching a screen pass here or there. I thought he would be in the game, playing some snaps, maybe have a series or two on his own. I thought there'd be some series where he would have some wildcat. Maybe Bridgewater would go and run out and act like he was going to run a route. We didn't see any of that, and so that is concerning for me in terms of what I expect New Orleans offense to do. So I am, against my better judgment, going to go with the Cowboys and Jason Garrett on the road in the Superdome, the Mercedes-Benz Superdome, with 2.5. An undefeated team at 2.5, even though it's on the road against another strong opponent.
Yeah.
I will like that. Let's rattle through a couple games quickly.
Sure.
Before we get to our survivor picks. Titans at Falcons. Who do you like?
Falcons are banged up, but based on what I saw from the Titans and Mariota on Thursday night, I can't pick the Titans, so I'm going Falcons here.
See, I'm actually going Titans, and I just have more.
Why?
Because I have more faith and confidence in Mike Vrabel than I do in
that says a
Dan
lot
Quinn.
about what you think of the Falcons, I think.
I wouldn't be surprised if the first coach on the hot seat this year is Dan Quinn. The Falcons, to me, have been pretty disappointing. You get Calvin Ridley involved a lot one week, he's invisible another. If you ask me, okay, well, what's their brand of football? What do they do? I'm not sure I could tell you on either side. I don't like either team, but I'm going with the Titans. Okay. Raiders at Colts. Who do you like?
I got to take the Colts. They're against the spread. They've been great this season. And the Raiders' offense seems to be dwindling, so got to go Colts.
Yeah, Jacoby Brissett has been better than many people thought. I think he's stabilized the situation, even though they lost Luck. I like the Colts as well. Bucks at Rams. Big line in this game. Who do you like?
Yeah, I think it's going to be the Rams. The Bucks blowing an 18-point lead to a rookie quarterback is one of those games that can ruin your season, and I think that's exactly what happened, so I like the Rams.
I just envision Aqib Talib baiting Jameis Winston into a couple costly picks. I like the Rams big in this game as well. Jags at Broncos. Who do you have?
I have no faith in the Broncos at this point. Their defense isn't even as good as it's supposed to be, and I'm on the Gardner Minshew train. So I'm going to go with the Jags.
As am I. And where's the Broncos pass rush been?
Right, yeah.
I thought it was going to be the best in the league.
Fangio's supposed to come in and make them a Bears-type defense, and they've been terrible.
Yeah, very disappointing. And speaking of very disappointing, lastly, the Bengals and Steelers. This used to be the matchup you cared about in the division, the AFC North. It is the exact opposite right now. Who you like?
I like the Steelers to get their first win of the season. I just think they're the better constructed team, and I just have no faith in the Bengals.
I don't have much faith in Mason Rudolph. I mean, I don't really have much faith in Andy Dalton either. So I guess I'll take the Steelers because even though both teams have been disappointing, I feel like the floor for them is a bit higher, and I expect Connor to get back on track in the ring game. So I will take Pittsburgh at home in the Monday Nighter. All right. You've made it, and thus we will give you some dessert. We will give you our survivor picks, things you can take to the bank. So you're still in your survival pool. You can lead us off. Who you got?
I feel like I'm testing my luck here a little bit, but I'm going to go with the Chargers, who are playing the Dolphins. I think despite not covering, despite me not taking the Chargers by 16 points, I feel like it's a no doubt win for the Chargers in Miami.
I am taking the Rams at home against Tampa Bay. Listen, Mike Evans can't have basically one of the best games in fantasy by a receiver than we've seen in the last couple of years again against the Rams.
No,
he did that.
Not against the Rams.
And the Bucs still lost.
Yeah.
So I think this is a get-right game for Jared Goff and for Todd Gurley. That offense starts to flow once again. I like the Rams. I already told you I like them to cover at 9.5. So certainly I like them to win outright. So if you haven't picked the Rams yet in your survivor pool, pick them now. And I actually think when you look at their division, there aren't really many gimmies where you feel super, super confident about them in their division.
Yeah, so this is the one.
Hosting the Cardinals might be the one. So I say go nuts and take them against Tampa Bay.
Quickly, what are your gold, silver, and bronze for this week? You mentioned your gold earlier.
Yes, I gave you my gold earlier. My bronze actually would be the Rams, as I just mentioned. They're my survivor pick, and my silver would be in survivor. Just if you haven't watched the other videos, I've already taken New England. I've already taken Dallas, so those were off the table for me in terms of survivor picks. My silver would be. I'm gonna go maybe a little bit risky, and I'm gonna say the Colts. -7 hosting the Raiders. What about you?
Yeah, I'm going to go Texans by 5 over Panthers. It's my bronze. I'm confident in that one. Surprisingly going to take the Giants as a silver, 2.5 over Washington. And then my gold, which I think you're going to be surprised by, is the Cowboys over the Saints.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm confident in that one.
Well, you're more confident than I am.
Yeah.
He used to be an Eagles fan. He is no longer.
Yeah, apparently I love every other team in the NFC East.
Yeah, but he, like I, will be back for you next week, same time, same space, to give you some picks. Hopefully, you come back and trust us because the picks this week were good. Thanks for watching.